First of all, I grew up in a trailer park in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon. Uh, definitely no silver spoons in my life. And once we bought a house, my parents, excuse me, once my parents saved up enough money to buy a house, um, uh, in a, neighborhood right on the outskirts of Saskatoon, my mother had to make a decision. I was old enough then to that I had to start thinking whether I follow the family path down the hockey Hall of Fame route or whether I do a different sport. My mother, she actually told me later, she looked at my father and he had no teeth. They were all busted out by my uncle, and his teeth were all busted out by his other brother. And my mother said, I didn't want you to lose all your teeth. So hockey was out. And you're such a dirty little kid that I figured if I put you in swimming, that would accomplish two goals. It would clean you up. I wouldn't have to bathe you, and you'd save your teeth. So that's how I started swimming. I think officially I was 10 years old when I competed in my first swim meet competitively, Saskatoon. So literally we would spend all summer at the swimming pool, the Riversdale swimming pool. And when I started swimming at 10, there was also the young boys that were doing the water polo league, the junior water polo league. So while we're going monotonously up and down, up and down, up and down, they're over having fun chasing all the girls around the on the shore. And then when we got done, they'd go in there for an hour and throw balls around and have a riot. It didn't take me long to realize that water polo was cool. Swimming was a way to get a scholarship later in my life, but water polo is really where my heart was. So I started playing junior water polo in Saskatoon in the literally, I wouldn't call it the beer leagues, although we were 14, so there was definitely beer involved. But it was bush league, jungle league. But that's where I started my water polo career. Was I think with the Lethe Gators. My good buddy Ron Pfeiffer, best friend still to this day. He was our goalie, not a very good one. I can't remember him ever actually stopping a shot. Thank goodness we had such an amazing offense to cover up for his lack of defense in the goalie department. But yeah, I started at an early age playing water polo. Knew it was going to be my sport, but I couldn't see a way to get a scholarship in Canada where swimming I could. We had a junior program in the outdoor pools in Saskatoon. So, I remember Lethe Gators is who I played for, Riversdale, whatever they were. There was, I think, four pools, outdoor pools, freezing cold, not heated. George Ward was another swimming pool. So we had a league competing in the outdoor swimming pools. And the outdoor swimming pools in those days in Saskatoon, there wasn't a whole bunch to do. I mean, it's Saskatoon. There's mosquitoes and you can slap them for fun, or you can go to the swimming pool. So everybody went there, and it was the stands were packed. I mean, it would make the newspapers all the time. They were covered all, and so I played juniors and then moved up to the senior level. Uh, got even rougher then. But at 17, I picked up a scholarship to go to university in Simon Fraser in British Columbia for swimming. We competed in the NAIA conference, small colleges, and it was the only university at that time that gave scholarships. All the other Canadian universities, CIAU conference, they would not allow Simon Fraser to compete because of the scholarship. So we competed down south, and I had no desire to move down south to to swim, although I probably could have, but in those days it wasn't common. And in that next 5 years, that all changed, and they started picking up Canadian athletes. But when I went out to Simon Fraser the first year, I was all American swimmer. Competed in the NEIs. We won the conference every year for I think a decade at least, maybe longer. Under Paul Savage was a coach. my memory, I was older by then. I mean, I was older and I'd played a lot of water polo, and I wasn't quite so in awe of the other international players. And I remember we were playing Mexico in Cuba. I don't remember what happened, but the there's a very good Mexican player, very good, a number six, I think. I don't know what his name was, but he talk about arrogant. I was fast, and the guy, he was behind me. I was going to cut off a breakaway or cut off another player, and he grabbed onto my foot and 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 actually pulled me back. And the refs, let's face it, it's water polo reffing. They see what they want to see sometimes. I mean, he pulled me from like full length ahead of him, right, got a hold of my ankle and just pulled me back. So I said, okay, whoever you are behind me, you want to play that. So as he pulled me back, I came back, and I came back hard, with this pull. I just went as hard as I could and just labeled him right in the face and cut him across his forehead. And of course, there's blood, so he has to come out of the water. And I remember the refs didn't see anything. It wasn't like, there was no penalty or whatever. I don't know what they called, but it wasn't, maybe they had a penalty. I don't know, but it wasn't a brutality. But I remember Gabor, to this day, I can see him. I came to the edge and I was angry. Like the guy, I don't care who he is. If you're that disrespectful to our Canadian team, it means their whole team was being disrespectful to us. And to me, you've got to make them respect you. If they don't, I don't care if they have better skills and they're better trained and I don't know, better genetics, whatever it is. I don't care. I can still earn your respect. And if you're going to treat me with disrespect, then you're going to learn respect the hard way. And that's how I looked at things. So when I came back and cut them their best players out, well, of course, that probably had ramifications internationally because the other coach, I'm sure, would have reamed out Gabor. He knew who was in for it, and the international body, you can't, it's like taking a swing at Wayne Gretzky. You just never did that. Yes, you could send Semenko after him during the game, but I'll guarantee after the game, they're going to come and talk to you. You don't touch the golden children, and this guy was. So I remember Gabor, he substituted me. I came to and I remember him looking down. He said, "Why, Jimmy? Why you play like this? Why, Jimmy?" And right then I realized, okay, I'm done. It's not it's because I played like that because I wanted to win. Period. I didn't care. I wanted to win. I love winning. I love being the best. Period. And for me, it was a very black and white thing where you did whatever you had to do to win. And that, that attitude doesn't, it works in jungle ball, but internationally, I get it. I put him in an uncompromising position. Gabor, I apologize for that. And I'm sure that he got his tail reamed out by the officials, whoever those, the top guys around the world. You control your player because he just cut one of the very good players. And that means that this game goes in jeopardy because you're not supposed to win, Canada. These guys are supposed to win. And I'm jumping to a couple of conclusions on that one, but like I said, sometimes refs see what they want to see, and things are preordained in different ways. But that was pretty well the end of it for me, where I said, okay, well, if you can't do what you got to do, if the whole team would do that, we'd win. We'd win. Period. And they would not touch us. They wouldn't learn respect. If they need to learn it that way, they learn it that way. But anyway, that was pretty well the end of it. I think I still played, if I remember correctly. I was asked to go back to centralize in '84. It doesn't mean I was going to make the team, but I was certainly chosen as one of the people to centralize and make the Olympic team. But I was already long out of water polo by then, and had a life. I was going to get married in '84 when the Olympics, the Los Angeles Olympics. I had a business that I was starting by then, and centralizing just was not an option for me, even though I'm sure I would have been cut anyway, because Gabor and I still never quite saw eye to eye on well, pretty well everything. So other than I recognize, he's a smart guy, obviously really smart guy, and he was handed a tough role, a tough position. So I respect him now in hindsight, but it's the usual, just like the guys that work for me, and I run them through the boot camp up in my Yukon outfitting territory, or cameraman. They all say the same thing. You were hard on us. Well, yeah, I was hard on you, but look now. Now you're thankful for it, and every one of them will come back and thank me. So Gabor, thank you for all you did all those years to put up with me with my long hair and Fu Manchu and an earring. Ugh. And I called Andre and said, "Not in a million years, Andre. You laid me off once. I will never forgive you for that. We can still be good friends, and business is business, Andre. But I will not ever work for anybody again in my life, and I never have. I got my antique stores off the ground in Vancouver, had a really high-end clientele. Like Goldie Hawn was a friend and a good customer of mine. Guys like who's James Taylor's wife, Catherine Windsor, was it? She was I mean, the who's who would come through there buying in Vancouver. It was like a cool place to be, my store, folk art interiors. So that's really where I made my first real money. Discovered the Western Canadian vernaculars of ethnocentric folk art. So Doukhobor, Mennonite, Hutterite, Ukrainian, homemade, handmade furniture that I'd buy in the prairies and refinish it and sell it in Vancouver. So that was my real first money. And then Ralph Lauren walked in one day and with his entourage. By then I had 3 stores in Vancouver. I had a gallery down in Yaletown, which didn't even exist then. Um, a huge warehouse in Yaletown as well, filled, I don't know, it was 7,000 square feet packed to the rafters with inventory. And my sort of headliner store on 10th Avenue in Vancouver. And he walked in and basically said, "I'll take it, all of it." So I furnished all of Ralph Lauren's country stores when he was, I think, trying to break the Polo franchises. These were his own stores, all through, well, Canada was only Vancouver, but then through the States. And that took all my inventory up. And I used that money to make my move to Vancouver Island and finally get into my first true love, which was hunting and guiding, outfitting. So I bought my first outfitting territory in Vancouver Island, and with his money, thank you, Ralph, and never looked back. But I'd already started writing in '84 for hunting magazines to set up a profile. So when I got bought my first outfitting territory in 90, 91, 92, um, I was already had a high profile in the hunting world because of my magazine articles. There was no television at that time. So when I started in television, it just started, and my first year I was on ESPN in those days, and then ESPN2, then TNN, the national network that became the Spike Network, and now nowadays it's the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel. First of all, just back on the antiques part, Country Living magazine, Rachel Newman was the editor back in those days. They wrote 3 big full color articles on my collection and me. So it was, my stores were internationally known. So my store was, those stores were not just little junky antique stores. I would take full loads of furniture down to Hollywood, and I would not rent out, I would remove all the furniture out of one of my clients, high-end clients' homes, and move all my furniture in. And then we'd bring flowers and catered and valet parking, and then they would invite all the who's who in Hollywood to come to their home to see my furniture, and I'd sell it to them and then deliver it to their homes, put it in place, and put the furniture back in the house that I destroyed, and then drive all the way back up to Vancouver. So I mean, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I furnished many of the stars' homes, and I won't say all their names, but yeah, Elizabeth Montgomery was wonderful. I mean, so my antique stores were well known, and I was at a heady level in that world. Outfitting territories are like a deed to a house. You own the rights to use the land. So the tree farm license guys, they have the right to use, log. Miners can stake a claim, so they also have tenure on there. And trappers can also have their trapping territories. But all of British Columbia is divided up into outfitting territories as well, where you can buy them. If I die, it goes to my estate. So that people don't understand how that industry works. And it's probably not the place to tell it all, but it's very expensive to buy into those areas, in the millions and millions of dollars nowadays. Um, but I went to the outfitter and said, I want to work for you. My intention was to buy him out. He didn't know that. But he said, not in a chance. He was big guy smoking. He looked like a bear. He said, I wouldn't hire a damn hippie. You couldn't, I said, well, I'll work for you for free. You're hired, and just like that. So that's, and then I bought his outfitting territory out 2 years later. I got it for free for him. And because of my profile in the writing world, in the outdoor world, I could bring in all the most important players in that industry uh, to do television shows or write magazine articles. So that's all I did was I got them to write about me and my outfitting territory, which was marketing, free marketing, advertorial marketing, we'd call it. And that would help me sell the hunt. So I mean, I went out on a limb, even with Ralph's money, I still, I owed a pile. And it was, every decision was, to me, it was life or death. But like everything in my life, if it's life or death, I'll make the call, and I will live and die by my decisions. And I did. And, bought my second opening territory, Saskatchewan in 96, third, 97, 98, bought another one, that's all Saskatchewan. And then 2001, I bought three territories up in the Yukon. Now that's the big leagues. There's only 17 opening territories in the entire Yukon that are available, or that were, there's two more, but they're owned by the First Nations groups. So, now you're in the big leagues where the money is, you get nosebleeds talking about how much money it costs to buy an opening territory. And I bought three of them with another fellow of the 17. And that was 2001, right after 9/11. The world was turning upside down, so they became available, but it's huge risk. So we bought those as partner, and of course the first ship to sink is a partnership. So and I'm not a good partner, as I've probably made very clear to everybody so far. I have a one-man show, and I live and die by my decisions. And the other fellow and I, we parted company, sold one off back to the original seller, an Austrian prince, and he kept one of the territories. My partner and I kept the other one, the Rogue River opening territory, which I still own to this day. I still have all my territories that I originally purchased, and still outfit and guide, but along the way turned it into a bit of a media empire as well. Yeah, for me, even when I was doing the antiques, I realized that an article that someone would write about you was far more powerful in convincing people that your product was good and to come to your store than all the ads combined that I could pay for. So that's why I started writing in '84 for the hunting magazine, just to give myself a profile and a brand, a recognizable brand, that when I did get into the outdoors industry, that people would already know me, and that would make it a lot easier to sell. And at that time, there was a few more networks than the original big three: ABC, NBC, and CBS. The original big three were starting to lose ground to new networks, ESPN. And so my first year, I because I knew everybody in the industry by then, the media part of the industry, I just called up the North American Hunter Club president, Mark LaBarbera, executive director as well, and said, hey, come on, I'll take you on this hunt. I went to the outfitter at that time, Wayne Weave, and said, give me a free hunt and I'll guide it for free. It's not going to cost you anything, but you'll get press. So Mark LaBarbera came out with his television crew, because that was the point when the world started changing from print media to television. And before that, you didn't have access to those big networks. It was impossible. But with ESPN, they were looking for content. So the North American Hunting Club, which was the biggest hunting club, 750,000 members at that time, they had the money to buy airtime on ESPN. So Sunday mornings was the hunting block. And Mark came out and we videoed, I guided him. And of course, it takes about a year and a half to get those shows out. Well, by then I already owned the territory. So the original outfitter never got the benefit of it. I did. So when the art, the television show came out, and I have a certain look, that works. If I have a skill, it's certainly um, telling stories, maybe, or cameras don't bother me. I could care less. I know who I am, and this is who I am, and like it or don't like it, but this is what you're going to get. And the guys that were writers couldn't necessarily make that crossover. Because they write in their little computers, and they were mostly little twitchy guys that suddenly when a camera's on them and they're out in the wildlands and they're supposed to look like this, you know, persona of a mountain man, they couldn't pull it off. Well, I could. And so that again helped raise the popularity of my brand. So ESPN was the first ones I started on, and then, like I say, ESPN2, because ESPN got their act together and kicked off the hunting shows to their second channel, and eventually totally kicked them off altogether. But then TNN, the national network, came on, and I had a segment in the most popular show, Realtree Outdoors. I had a 5-minute segment every week with me hosting it, and I can give me a camera. I don't know, maybe I'm a ham, but I can, I entertain people. That's what television is all about. When the cable networks came on board in the late 90s, they had no content whatsoever. 1,000 cable networks came on board. Well, suddenly from three in a period of 10 years, we went from 3 to 1,000 networks and no content. But video cameras, the little home video cameras they came out about 84 and they were pretty good quality by the time 2000 showed up. And that's when all these networks needed content. So I looked at this and said, wow, there's an outdoor channel. It was all gold miners that own it, but their content sucks. And so the outdoor channel realized they needed to get into the hunting world because TNN changed to the Spike network. So they were kicking the shows off. So I just went to them and said, hey, can I buy airtime on your outdoor channel? And they said, sure, it's whatever. And we keep 3 minutes of the 6 minutes advertising. We'll give you 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute. And, I did the math on that and said, well, no, here, I got a better idea. I'll take all 6 minutes. And you're not allowed to advertise on my show at all. You don't sell any advertising. I own it all. And they went for that because I paid more money. And of course, once I had control of my own advertising, then I could go to all my sponsors that I'd picked up over the years of writing magazine articles and say, hey, you want to be on television? This is the new great thing, and cable is it. And they all wanted to do that rather than just the writing, which I was still doing as well. So I sold them the advertising in my own show, which paid for my ability to produce the show and made money and raised my profile, which made it easier to sell my hunts. So it was, for me, it was purely business. It was never a desire to sign hats or there wasn't such a thing as selfies in those days, but it was that desire to create a business model that didn't exist. Outfitting, I love it. I still go up to my Yukon outfitting territory. I think it's the most beautiful place in the world. September, late August, you'll find me up there. There's just no place like it. Truly, the Karakoram, the Palmirs, the Himalayas, the Kokshaltao, Mountains of the Sun, and Kyrgyzstan, none of them compare to the Yukon. It's magnificent, pure wilderness, the last wilderness left in this world. So I'll fly in there. I've got a couple of airplanes up there that, it's only airplane access. 7.5 million acres and not a single house, not a single road, just my camps on various lakes and rivers and access by airplane only. Pure wilderness. So I still will go up there and continue that business. Got a great team. Our production side, where we produce for the Aboriginal People's Television Network, APTN, 2 shows. One will be coming out pretty quick, Coastal Carvers. The other one is Yukon Harvest. That'll be in its 4th season, I believe. So people don't know that I'm actually the producer on that. We do that in-house right here in the studio, actually. And of course, filming is in situ out in the wildlands. So that's what I can give back to our First Nations people is to show truly what life is like on the land, as opposed to the stereotypical Hollywood version of what goes on. They sanitized the First Nations to make it politically correct. Well, no, it's not. They don't have to be politically correct. They are always correct because they were here first. So we show all this on our television show. So those will continue. I've got a great production team here that they handle all that. I'm kind of at this point been put out to pasture figurehead, the executive producer, whatever that is. But we do that all here. So I'll continue that. We still do my shock therapy television show on the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel down the States, syndicated around the world. Our reruns are constantly running all over the world. Water polo truly instilled in me a joie de vivre, a love of life, and also confidence to face anything in this world. I mean, I don't care how big the guy is or how hairy, or it doesn't matter, how scary the future looks. Water polo, it taught me you just face it and go do it. So I carry everything I learned in water polo, I carry with me every single day. It influences every single decision I make.